The talk of western Kansas is about a sinkhole near the town of Sharon Springs, and what a sinkhole it is. It's been developing over the last few days and measures 200 feet across and 90 feet deep.
People are amazed at the size of this hole that seemed to show up overnight.
How can this happen, and what happened to what's below?
A few days ago, the earth opened up and left this giant sinkhole right in the middle of Dalton Haas's pasture.
The local sheriff said it looked like an act of God, adding there are no oil or irrigation wells around the area. It also appears to still be growing.
Researchers have a mystery on their hands after more dolphins started washing ashore along the East Coast.
They're mainly bottlenose dolphins, and they are different ages and sizes. Virginia has seen the biggest spike this summer. 42 dolphins died in July, compared to 10 in July 2011 and 2012 combined.
At least 100 this year alone in Virginia. And it's happening in other places too, like New Jersey.
Experts don't know exactly what's causing it yet, but it could be a number of things, including a virus.
The damage bill from the freak tornado that devastated the southeast town of Kingston yesterday will run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. As the massive cleanup continued today, locals recounted stories of terror and near misses.
Hell. As the tornado tore a path through town, Callum Page ran to check on his neighbours. Moments earlier, he'd watched in horror as the roof was ripped from their house. 42 homes were damaged, 4 have been left uninhabitable.
Dangerous rounds of flooding in the middle of the country. In Wichita, Kansas, streets turned to rivers, submerging cars, swamping their engines.
Submerged on a Sunday, more than 7 inches of rain filling backyards, enveloping cars in some parts of central Kansas. Cars and people bobbing in the flooded streets near Wichita. A reported tornado causing a truck to flip, a roof to rip. And look at those mounds of white. That is hail, plowable hail in Windsor, Colorado.
Flash floods have left more than 160 people dead and stranded, and even more without food or shelter in Pakistan and Afghanistan, in one of South Asia's most destructive natural disasters of the year.
This car was carrying a man, woman and child when flash floods hit the city of Karachi in southern Pakistan. All are thought to have died.
80 people across Pakistan who've lost their lives in floods caused by unusually heavy monsoon rain.
Some neighbourhoods were submerged waist deep in water. Houses collapsed, sewage overflowed, scores of people were electrocuted or drowned. And the heavy rains didn't spare the rest of the country. There's been flooding in the north and west, particularly the city of Peshawar. In neighbouring Afghanistan, 5 provinces have been badly hit.
And in one town alone, Dera Ismail Khan, we've had reports of 300 houses being swept away. So a lot of trouble already being caused by these monsoon rains.
Floods caused by incessant rainfall in the Shantrapur district of Maharashtra state in West India have killed 20 people and displaced more than 8,000 others.
Triggered by continuous rainfall, the floods have wreaked havoc in more than 800 villages, submerging 1,200 hectares of land. Various roads were inundated by flood waters, disrupting transport and communication.
11 irrigation projects have been disrupted and roads have been inundated with flood water. India experiences monsoons from June to September, a vital time for agriculture. However, experts believe decades of mass deforestation has meant water levels are far higher than normal, resulting in destructive floods.
This dead bird is the only casualty we could find this afternoon, but this neighborhood was filled with them starting early this morning. One resident told me it was like a blitzkrieg of birds. They were on vehicles, coming up to business doors. And then, people tell us, they started dropping from the skies.
Summer has taken a pause in some parts of Europe, and in have come the storms. In the Loire region of France, hailstones, many the size of tennis balls, pounded the town of Chondieu, shattering the tiles and roofs and breaking car windows. Electricity was off, and residents battled to cover their damaged homes to prevent further problems with rain forecast. Many froze the evidence. In the north of France, in the Rouen, torrential rain driven by high winds caused chaos for motorists, with articulated lorries vulnerable in the storm. Flash floods covered many roads. In Saxony in East Germany, on one motorway, a special crane had to be brought in to lift a truck blown over in the high winds. Thunderstorms and heavy rain were the main culprits, leaving thousands of travellers stranded at railway stations, with trains cancelled or delayed. Frankfurt Airport was closed for a time. Falling branches were reported to have caused several injuries. In the eastern Amur region of Russia, a state of emergency has been declared after 300 homes were flooded. Around 1,500 people have been evacuated because of the rising water. We bought a house 2 months ago, repaired some of it, and now everything is underwater. And summer could be on hold for a while longer, with forecasters predicting more rain.
The government has declared a state of emergency in 5 regions in Russia's Far East. The Amur region has been hit the hardest. About 1,200 people have been evacuated and 32 residential areas inundated.
And the Los Angeles Times says the sun's magnetic field is about to flip. The effect will be felt throughout the solar system, including Earth.
They say the sun's magnetic fields weaken completely, then re-emerge with opposite polarity. So what does this mean for us on Earth? 2 words: cosmic rays. Some researchers say the rays might affect the cloudiness and climate on Earth.
Japan's government says the Fukushima plant has been leaking contaminated water for the last 2 years since being destroyed by a tsunami. A Japanese official told reporters the nuclear facility was releasing up to 300 tons of contaminated groundwater per day into the Pacific Ocean. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe promised to increase the government's efforts and ensure the plant's operator, TEPCO, deals with the €8 billion cost.
It is nothing more than a muddy mess tonight. Something happened last night that caused all of the water to drain out of the pond. The people who live there now have a mess on their hands, a smelly mess at that.
Yes, well, the Morlock family says lightning hit their SUV's antenna, knocking out the electrical system and blowing out 3 tires.
And the rain had been coming down all day when Taylor wished for something he couldn't take back.
Says he could feel the hair on the back of his neck stand up and said that is the last time he will wish for something like that.
Waters are rising and the map says it all. Now more than half the country under threat of flood.
Days and days of torrential rains that have left neighborhoods cut off, cars swept away, and have led to evacuations and some dramatic rescues. It's happening across the nation's midsection, and it has left scores of communities awash in misery. The rain totals have been astounding, in some places 10 inches in a single night, destroying homes, businesses, and turning some streets into raging rapids. And tonight there have been more deaths.
Underwater again. The latest flash flooding fatal in Oklahoma. Too much rain too fast, swamping this Walmart in Cortland, New York. Look at the store before and the image tweeted by the Weather Service after. More than 5 inches of rain falling in just hours.
This is what just an hour's worth of heavy rain can do. Flash floods taking out a string of cars on Highway 24 near Colorado Springs. From the Mountain West to the East Coast and on to the South, severe storms over the past few days have led to at least 3 deaths and hundreds homeless.
Parts of Japan are underwater as torrential rains wreak havoc. Floods and landslides have been triggered by some of the worst downpours on record.
The Japan Meteorological Agency told residents in the region to take immediate action to protect their lives after nearly double the monthly average of rain fell in a matter of hours. Train services have also been suspended.
These shocking aerials show the deadly flooding that's killed at least 5 people.
Well, at least
least 6 people are dead after a volcano erupted on a tiny island in Indonesia.
Mount Rokatenda on Palu Island gushed hot lava and spewed ash and smoke more than 6,500 feet into the air. Nearly 3,000 people were evacuated from the beach village after the eruption. According to the National Disaster Mitigation Agency, the volcano has been rumbling since October.
Large sinkhole swallowing buildings at a resort near Disney World in Central Florida this morning. Rescue officials in Lake County say the sinkhole is about 60 feet in diameter. The sinkhole nearly devoured one 3-story building and continues to sink another. It happened early this morning. 35 guests at the Summer Bay Resort were rushed out of the building to safety.
People woke up in the middle of the night to a cracking sound. Minutes later, they were told to get out as fast as they could.
Big popping noise, cracking, glass breaking, just...
The year's most powerful typhoon brings chaos to parts of the northern Philippines.
The storm triggered waves 8 feet high and left at least 44 missing and at least 2 people dead. 109-mile-an-hour winds toppled power lines and heavy rain fell across cities and food-growing plains.
Now that you can see behind me, there are a number of houses here that have been destroyed, but according to the municipal government of Casiguran, almost 80% of infrastructure in this town has been destroyed, including schools, including roads, and including houses.
A woman waves for help as she struggles to cling to debris in the muddy, raging waters of a river in Isabela province. As yet, her fate unknown as the swollen river swept her along. Typhoon Utor is the most powerful to have hit the Philippines this year, and it's also being described as the strongest so far anywhere in the world in 2013. It brought down power lines and caused destruction that's yet to be fully assessed as it battered coastal and mountainous regions in the north of the country.
Japanese children cool off at a water park in Tokyo as a heat wave sweeps the country. Parents say the unusually hot weather has made it difficult to find outdoor summer activities for their children. Residents in the southern Kochi prefecture sweltered in temperatures of 41 degrees Celsius, the highest temperature since records began in 1872.
South and the east, it's been a record heat wave that is continuing right across some of those provinces. The highest temperatures nationwide are expected today. Weather forecasters have issued highest level hot weather warning for the 19th consecutive day.
Harvest prospects are looking grim in Zhejiang. The sizzling heat has wilted most of the crops in the province. Farmers are already reporting record losses. The heat has also been blamed for the death of fish in local fisheries.
Zhejiang, Anhui and Shanghai have seen record temperatures this year. Shanghai is experiencing a 140-year high of 41.2 degrees Celsius.
Parts of the Philadelphia area are recovering from severe flooding. Heavy rains turned some streets into temporary lakes on Tuesday, stranding some motorists. High water was the hazard at a golf course. The search is expected to resume this morning for a teenager who was swept away in the rushing waters of a creek.
4, 5, 6 inches of rain fell in some areas, and now we are seeing the aftermath of that.
After this storm that was much stronger and much wetter than many expected.
Three people have been killed and tens of thousands forced to evacuate as Typhoon Utor rips through southern China. Heavy rain is battering the Guangdong province, causing widespread flooding and mudslides. At least 5 people are missing.
Typhoon Utor blew in with winds reaching up to 151 kilometres per hour.
Over 88,000 residents in low-lying areas of Maoming City were forced to flee their homes. State television CCTV showed footage of flooded villages, damaged houses and uprooted trees.
Something's killing fish, about 1,000 of them in a pond on the National Mall.
As you can imagine, it's causing concern among tourists and creating quite a stink downtown.
A day-long cleanup. You can still smell and see the problem.
Just after 2:30 p.m, workers in New Zealand felt the effects of a 6.5 magnitude earthquake.
The capital, Wellington, only suffered superficial damage. The epicenter was further south in Seddon and struck at a dangerously shallow depth of 8 kilometers, similar to the tremor which devastated the South Island city of Christchurch in 2011.
As I say, thankfully no injuries, but some people, we understand, were trapped in elevators for some minutes, which must have been terrifying.
Air and rail services are suspended while officials check tracks and runways for damage. There are also widespread power outages across the north of the South Island.
Homes destroyed, families stranded, road links and bridges washed away. Torrential monsoons and flash floods have hit Pakistan's Punjab province. Local media report that more than 200 villages have been submerged.
At least 98 people have died in flood-related accidents this month, especially in urban areas.
Government officials say more than 100,000 people have been affected by the floods this month.
Growing battle against fierce wildfires burning in the west. In fact, as we come on the air tonight, 38 large fires across 10 western states. In one fire, they're going from house to house to get families out. Idaho's Beaver Creek fire. They began knocking on those doors in the middle of the night as that fire tripled in size. The erratic winds whipping those flames into tornado-like fire whirls.
This wildfire has consumed more than 100,000 acres. It is a massive blaze, roughly the size of the city of Denver or Detroit.
With drought conditions burning fires hotter and faster than ever before, crews face new challenges, protecting homes encroaching on dense forest land.
There's a lot of narrow gulches in this area with homes built right through the middle of them. Just incredible fire behavior with our fire crews in there trying to protect those structures.
The Beaver Creek fire has devoured nearly 100,000 acres since last week, and the nearly 700 firefighters there still have a long way to go. Another 1,000 firefighters are pouring in. 42 large wildfires are now raging in 11 states, from Alaska down to Arizona.
A volcano in southern Japan has erupted, creating a spectacular plume of ash 3.1 miles high. The ash cloud from Sakurajima, an already active volcano in the prefecture of Kyushu, is the highest volcanic plume ever recorded for the volcano. The local meteorological observatory in Kagoshima says the eruption began at 2:41 Eastern Daylight Time, with the large plume of smoke rising over 3 miles above the crater. The observatory also reported a pyroclastic flow travelling just over half a mile southeast down the slope of the near 3,700-foot high volcano. Local residents in Kagoshima City held towels to their mouths and wore masks to protect themselves from soot and ash as smoke temporarily filled the streets.
The eruption also created a small flow of volcanic material up to 1 kilometre from the crater. Believe it or not, it was the 500th eruption of this volcano just this year.
Now, there's no relief in sight for the tens of thousands of people living in Russia's Far East, battered by the worst flooding in more than a century. Water levels have already broken a historical record for the region, and they're expected to reach the peak only by the middle of the week. Around 30,000 people have already been evacuated by emergency services, and authorities say this could be just the beginning.
Devastating floods along Russia's border with China could force 100,000 people out of their homes. Villages in the Amur region and in the Jewish Autonomous District have been engulfed. Water levels have reached 6 meters in some places. Officials say the floods, brought on by unusually heavy rains, are the biggest to hit the area in 120 years.
The Amur River near the Chinese border burst its banks after heavy rain. The army and emergency workers have set up more than 150 temporary shelters, providing water, hot food and medical supplies.
China is used to flooding at this time of year, but this is said to be the worst for decades. 6 regions have been badly hit by heavy rains, 3 in the south and 3 in the northeast, where scores of people have been killed.
At least 91 people have been killed by floods triggered by days of heavy rain in southern and northeastern China.
South China's Guangdong province is witnessing its worst flooding in 50 years as Typhoon Utor brings days of heavy rainfall. Torrential rains since Thursday morning have swollen reservoirs and the Suijiang River, with water covering roads and submerging croplands. Floods have destroyed dozens of homes in Huaiji, a county of about 1 million people.
Guangdong province has been worst hit. Typhoon Utor landed here last week. The heavy rains that followed brought chaos. This bridge in Meizhou City has stood for almost 80 years. Now the struggle to protect it from rushing floodwaters. Repairing damage on this scale is likely to be a long and difficult process. Thousands of soldiers have been drafted in to help, filling sandbags, reinforcing dams, rescuing the stranded. Setbacks are likely. More rain is expected in the next few days.
Experts say they won't be surprised if White Island erupts again in the coming days after the volcano coughed into life this morning. This sped-up camera footage captured a column of steam towering 4 kilometres into the Bay of Plenty sky. Sightseers on a trip to the island also had a good view of the action and took these pictures while on the water. The volcano's been rumbling away for about a year, and today's eruption follows seismic activity yesterday under the island. Volcanic alert levels were raised soon after the eruption.
Monsoon rains lashed down in various provinces in the Philippines, triggering flash floods and landslides that killed at least 8 people. At least 133,000 people sought shelter in government evacuation centres across the main island of Luzon, and more than double that number moved to relatives or friends' homes for safety during the past 3 days of intense rainfall. Massive flooding has affected several towns in Pampanga province, about 80 kilometres north of Manila, with some major roads impassable and low-lying villages submerged underwater. The provinces of Pampanga and Laguna, along with 3 others in Luzon, have declared a state of calamity due to widespread flooding and damage to infrastructure. The southwest monsoon, which lasts from June to September, was intensified by Tropical Storm Trami and brought torrential rains in Manila and nearby provinces of Luzon Island.
Under a so-called state of calamity because it's mostly underwater. Cavite province is suffering like much of the northern Philippines from unprecedented downpours.
A city of 12 million people transformed into a kind of water world. At least half of the Philippines' capital has been submerged this week. Outside Manila, it's even worse in places, with weeks of rainfall coming down in just 24 hours.
Portugal has requested help from Spain and France as wildfires cut a swathe of destruction across central and northern areas of the country. Lisbon's Interior Ministry has asked for air support in the form of 4 firefighting Canadair planes. Around 1,300 emergency personnel are on the ground battling more than 275 blazes, thought to have been caused by soaring summer temperatures.
An incredible sight caught on camera. Take a look as a line of monster fog rolls over a mountain range in Canada.
That looks like the special effect out of a horror movie where the bad aliens are coming to get you.
Absolutely incredible. Imagine just driving along, seeing that.
Yeah, might make me worry a little bit.
This one almost Armageddon-like. What you're looking at is fog rolling over the long-range mountains.
Maybe we could just call it Fogmageddon.
I want to show you some new video tonight. We're talking about a sinkhole striking again. This time, it's an entire lake that gets sucked underground, and fish just left flopping around in Ocala.
Constance Quigley noticed the pond outside her window shrinking Tuesday morning. About midday, something was a bit off.
The fountain that
had been low before was now only shooting up about a foot.
By the evening, she and her neighbors knew something was wrong.
It's kind of weird at this point, but if it gets any bigger, it's going to get scary.
This cell phone video was taken as neighbors watched the sinkhole swallow up water.
More dolphins have turned up dead along New Jersey beaches. The dolphins were found in Seaside Heights, Long Beach Island, and other locations. The death toll is now 58 since July 9th. The director of the Marine Mammal Stranding Center in Brigantine says the cause of death is unknown. He says the dolphins appear to be dying from viral pneumonia. Scientists are also exploring other causes, such as changes in the environment.
Take a look at this incredible video from the Louisiana Bayou. It was shot by a local emergency management official as a massive sinkhole devoured an entire row of cypress trees in a matter of seconds.
We have been hearing a lot about them lately, but we rarely ever get to see a sinkhole happen right before our eyes. The sinkhole is still active and growing. Right now, there are no homes in danger, but I looked this up. 25 acres in size right now, and it's been growing for more than a year. It was a collapsed salt dome.
In China, we take a look at some of these very dramatic pictures, which we hope we can see. More than 30 visitors were injured when massive waves hit Zhejiang province. Waves as high as 20 meters were recorded by the local observation station as it crashed along the banks of the river.
The impact of the massive water invasion destroyed the wave wall and the protection net along the river.
The waves smashed a riverbank and ripped up part of a seawall in the east. State media report the water shot up to 60 feet high.
Bizarre and dangerous weather in the west. Massive pieces of hail actually shutting down parts of Colorado.
In Colorado, the ground turning white. Up to 2 feet of hail falling in Denver as severe thunderstorms rocked the Rockies. The hail, golf ball sized, and in some spots, plowable. And in Colorado Springs,
This might be really bad. We've got a GoPro, but
flooding rains trapping this couple.
I don't know if I want to test my luck.
At around 6 o'clock, rain and hail pounded parts of Littleton, flooding the area with nearly 4 feet of water in some places.
The rain triggered a wave of water that led to many water rescues and several road closings.
Out of the war at home and the shifting battlefront in this season of wildfires. Tonight, the massive mobilization of equipment and manpower we've been witnessing across the West the last few weeks is on the move to California and what has now become the country's most dangerous wildfire.
In the tinder-dry western United States, more than 50 fires are now said to be burning out of control. This one, near the Yosemite National Park, has enveloped an area of more than 80 square miles.
One of the largest California wildfires in decades is continuing to rage out of control in and around Yosemite National Park.
This is just extraordinary. California's governor has now declared a state of emergency for the city of San Francisco, 150 miles from here, because of a threat to the city's power and water supply.
Energy and water supplies in San Francisco were threatened as the blaze moved in on reservoirs and power lines. Access to Yosemite, which attracted 4 million visitors last year, was closed along Highway 120 as firefighters turned their efforts to redirecting the fires away from buildings and campgrounds. There's something fishy going on in Brazil. 10 tons of dead fish have been found floating in a Rio de Janeiro lake. Biologists say it's likely the fish deaths were caused by sewage finding its way into the water, which sits next to the Olympic Park, under construction for the 2016 Games. A man who once fished in what he describes as clear waters blames the city officials. In reality, they say it's rainwater, but the truth is only sewage is dumped in here. They said they would have a sewage treatment, but until today they've done nothing.
Evidence of yesterday's flash flooding in Hockley near Southend is still visible. The road leading into the station remains closed to traffic today. Just 24 hours before, it looked like this. This dramatic video shows a 4x4 sinking after becoming trapped in the floodwater. Scott Swinford, his 8-year-old son Reese, 6-year-old niece Jessica and 4-year-old nephew Alfie were pulled to safety through the car windows. About 20 seconds later, the car completely sank.
Wow. A mudslide triggered by snow causes chaos in what is normally one of the driest places on Earth. The light snowfall in Chile's Atacama Desert was the first in 30 years. The moisture mixed with the dry desert soil created a huge mudslide that pushed its way right to the border of the town of Tocopilla. Town Mayor Fernando San Roma, who called for more government resources, said he was grateful the mud did not come into the town. Heavy machinery was brought in to remove the mud from the coastal highway, where many people were stranded in their vehicles.
Welcome back, everybody. The flooding in the Northwest Valley isn't just causing washed out roads, it's also causing some other problems. One neighborhood is reporting a strange foam, actually gurgling foam from storm drains.
Yeah, Jeff, we are in Ackerman and El Capitan, and residents say they noticed a form around 7:30 this morning. It's doubled in size since then, and just to give you an idea, it's about 40 feet wide and 4 feet high, and it just won't stop growing.
Las Vegas Water District has been there.
Okay.
And they looked at it, but they didn't tell us anything.
The city of Las Vegas sent out cleaning crews to clean up the mess, but they don't know what it is. They say it's water from the floods, but don't know what's causing that foam to gurgle.
Biologists are trying to unravel a mystery in northeastern New Mexico. More than 100 elk found dead on a ranch about 20 miles north of Las Vegas. The news comes as a shock to game and fish investigators and to hunters just days away from hunting season.
Sky News 13 flying over a gruesome discovery on the sprawling 75,000-acre Buena Vista Ranch near Mora. A massive die-off of more than 100 elk within 1 square mile. The elk weren't shot, so Game and Fish is investigating just what caused the deaths, which seemed to happen overnight. Their top suspicion? Something called epizootic hemorrhagic disease, or EHD. The often fatal disease is caused by insect bites. This is the time of year when it strikes most, when it's hot and elk herds stick together near water.
Also, along the eastern seaboard tonight, there's been a troubling mystery. What's been killing so many dolphins? Tonight, scientists believe they've figured it out.
From New York to North Carolina, federal scientists report 357 dolphins died between July 1st of this year and August 26th, a sudden and dramatic increase during a period that typically sees 36 deaths. Federal officials say the cause is the morbillivirus. The human strain of the disease causes the measles, but unlike people, there is no way to vaccinate wild dolphins.
This is the biggest die-off of East Coast dolphins in 25 years, when the virus killed at least 740 dolphins. Today, the source of the virus remains a mystery.
Heavy snowfall blanketed vast areas of southeastern Peru over the weekend, cutting off thousands of residents as freezing temperatures hit the Puno region high up in the Andes. As temperatures plummeted below 33 degrees Fahrenheit, up to 15 inches of snow fell over isolated communities. Dozens of abandoned vehicles littered snow-covered roads after some locals tried to escape the extreme weather conditions. According to local media, 12,000 families have been left stranded by the heavy snowfall, and rural communities have reportedly lost farm animals trapped under blizzards. Meteorologist Marty Bonchoms of Peru's National Weather Agency, Tsunami, says the freak weather pattern has seen increased humidity trigger heavy snowfall in the southern region. Local media reported a family of 5 died from the below-zero temperatures in the Cauca district of Puno. More snowfall and rain is forecast to continue to fall over affected areas of Peru for the remainder of the week.
Was it an elaborate prank, the sound of aliens, or something else? Those were some of the suggestions heard today as many terrace residents awoke to a rather unearthly sound, which was heard around parts of the city at around 7:30 this morning. The sound lasted for roughly 10 minutes and was recorded by many people. This recording was submitted to us by Kimberly Wookie. Similar sounds have been reported all over the world in recent years, including in Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Various explanations have been offered as to what might be causing the sounds. A physics professor at the University of Saskatchewan theorized that it's likely electromagnetic noise emitted from auroras and radiation belts.
A major 7.0 magnitude earthquake rocked Alaska's Aleutian Islands Friday, about 1,200 miles away from Anchorage.
Neighbors say a jet-like rumble shook homes and sent several people scrambling for cover.
Several aftershocks followed the large earthquake, including one that was recorded as 4.5 magnitude. But according to NOAA's Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, a destructive Pacific-wide tsunami is not expected. Miraculously, there have been no reports of major damage and no one was hurt. According to the city manager of Adak, a village in the island, residents could feel the quake there nearly 55 miles away.
5 people have been killed after a strong earthquake struck the popular tourist area of Shangri-La in China. The 5.8 magnitude quake damaged tens of thousands of homes, sparking landslides, blocking roads and trapping tourist buses. 24 people were also injured.
Around 9,000 residents have been forced to relocate, and quake and aftershock triggered landslides and closed roads leading to Sinkholes village in Nisi township of Shangri-La, where the epicenter is believed to be located, and telecommunications and electricity supplies have also been affected.
Drowned crops, flooded homes and streets submerged in water. Rural communities across southern China were destroyed over the weekend as heavy rains flooded the region, and as the waters rose it became clear that nothing was immune to its devastating power. This house collapsed in Shangluo village in China's Guangdong province on Sunday. It is unclear if anybody was hurt in the incident, but elsewhere the floods have already claimed more than 100 lives.
Extraordinary amateur video from Taiwan. The man who made this footage, Lai Hongwei, said the driver and passenger inside this car suffered only minor injuries. Tropical storm Kongray has dumped more than 500 millimeters of rain on Taiwan. Officials have stated a total of 3,600 residents have been evacuated. Trains and airplanes have been cancelled. Rescue workers had to deal with flash flooding. The government emergency centre says so far 3 people have died.
Over 30 people were reported injured, hundreds of homes damaged, and tens of thousands of households were left without power after a rare twister plowed through Tokyo suburbs on Monday. The tornado, witnessed by many, hit several suburban towns outside the Japanese capital, mainly around